on this Thursday night.
We'll always be standing up for Canadians in difficult situations abroad.
With 2 Canadians detained in China, Ottawa walks a tightrope between 2 economic titans. At Issue looks at the delicate diplomacy involved.
Having a surveillance camera in a room where treatment is being given, I would say is unjustified and would likely be a breach of our privacy law.
CBC News investigates why there are security cameras in a surgeon's exam rooms. Now officials are looking into it as well.
If they would have found out a portion of what had happened down here, I can't conceive that they would have let him out.
And a deportation case raises red flags about Canada's immigration enforcement, the very thing the opposition says it's been warning about. This is The National. Canadians Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor remain in Chinese custody tonight. To most appearances, victims of an international power play. But the prospect of being named national security threats there will weigh heavily. Convicted of that in China could mean life in prison. As this threatens to become a full-blown crisis, we'll look at several angles tonight. How Ottawa is responding to heavy pressure from Beijing, where China is writing its own narrative, and to some frustrating moves from the White House. This is, after all, Donald Trump's trade war. And speaking of trade, how do Canadians feel about doing business in China or with China right now? But let's start things off in Ottawa, where officials are watching their words. Katie Simpson has the latest on the careful diplomacy.
If only one could hear what's happening inside Ottawa's Chinese embassy. Very little information is trickling out on the condition of 2 Canadians being held by authorities in China.
Obviously, we continue to engage with Chinese authorities. We will always be standing up for Canadians in difficult situations abroad. We're engaged in consular services with their families as well.
Should Canadians travel to China now?
Beijing refused to offer specifics about how former diplomat Michael Kovrig or entrepreneur Michael Spavor posed a threat to Chinese national security. And a spokesman refused to link their detention to Canada's arrest of Huawei's CFO. But China is ramping up pressure on Ottawa to release Meng Wanzhou. In a Globe and Mail opinion piece, China's ambassador to Canada called her arrest a premeditated political action, adding the Chinese people used to have a favorable impression of Canada, but this incident has chilled their feelings.
It really is a clash of cultures, isn't it? You know, we're a rule of law country. They're a different culture entirely.
This former Canadian diplomat says other than waiting out the legal process, there isn't much Canada can do to ease tensions.
All the parties involved are just kind of caught in this horrible diplomatic dance that is hard to see a way out of.
The Prime Minister's inner circle is downplaying concern.
The trading relationship will continue. You know, states, you cannot judge a trade relationship on a daily basis.
The former trade minister does not seem worried about long-term consequences, while the tourism minister is still heading to China next week for a celebration of Canadian-Chinese tourism.
It's part of the plan, and we are having good conversations.
When are you supposed to be leaving?
As Canada's relationship with China grows more difficult, so does Canada's relationship with the United States. A senior source tells CBC News Ottawa has reached a new level of frustration with Donald Trump after the president said he would intervene in the Huawei extradition case if it suits his interests.
Okay, so Katie, has the Canadian government said any of that publicly, complained to American officials about the comments in any way?
No formal complaints yet, but it could happen tomorrow. The Foreign Affairs Minister is headed to Washington for meetings with the U.S. Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense. But Freeland may not address the issue since Canada does not want to see this issue politicized further, Rosie.
Okay. Katie Simpson in Ottawa tracking this story again for us tonight. Thank you.
Thanks.
So as Katie said there, Chrystia Freeland is in a delicate spot, to say the least. Not that U.S. officials seem overly concerned about the position Canada finds itself in. As Ellen Mora reports, they're more focused on trade than diplomacy, even though their request was the trigger for this crisis.
I've established a fantastic relationship with President Xi, who's the head of China, the absolute head of China.
On Fox News today, President Trump made his priority clear, a trade deal with China.
I think we're going to work a fantastic deal for both countries, but a fantastic deal for us. We're going to get China to open up.
Trump wants a deal so badly that earlier this week he suggested he might intervene in the Huawei arrest, saying it could be part of the negotiations, though there's been pushback.
He shouldn't really interfere in this way. He shouldn't really contaminate both processes. There shouldn't be a linkage between the trade negotiation with China and this enforcement issue.
It's the same sentiment coming from the Justice Department.
We don't do trade, and so we follow the facts and we vindicate violations of U.S. law. That's what we're doing when we bring those cases, and I think it's very important for other countries to understand that.
But even though it was the U.S. that started the case, China has focused its anger on Canada.
What we're seeing now, which is sort of this 90-day sprint.
This former member of the National Security Council's China team says that's on purpose.
It's in the Chinese interest to resolve the trade war talks, and they don't want this issue to be intermingled with broader trade war discussions because it limits the likelihood that the U.S. and China will reach an accommodation.
There's been a thaw in the U.S.-China trade war, China once again buying U.S. soybeans, momentum the president does not want to lose.
Tremendous amounts of soybeans. You see that already happen.
The question is, will he try to leverage the Huawei arrest as part of his trade efforts, or was it just a one-time comment from President Trump? Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Washington.
So for her part, Meng, the woman at much of the center of this, has posted on her Chinese social media page her first public statement since all of this started. She posted this. In China, it's a well-known Huawei ad, and the caption underneath there, if you read Chinese, if you don't, it says greatness. Underneath greatness, there is suffering. And that image, Adrian, not surprisingly, that post getting a lot of play in Chinese media right now.
Well, for sure. And the talk in the Chinese press is really getting heated over this, largely because Meng's arrest has infuriated China, and its state-run media has launched, frankly, an all-out assault. Its scathing words directed at Canada are just part of the backlash.
China will definitely take retaliatory measures against Canada.
That's the editor of the Communist Party-run tabloid Global Times, and he isn't mincing his words, essentially threatening Canada, release Meng Wanzhou or else.
I personally believe that if Canada extradites Meng to the U.S., China's revenge will be far worse than detaining a Canadian.
How could it get worse? Well, another commentary suggests consequences here in Canada. Huawei's 500-plus jobs in Ontario, even the tech giant's sponsorship of Hockey Night in Canada. The world is watching Canada, it warns. The image of the country will be damaged in the eyes of the Chinese people. Chinese tourism contributes $1.5 billion to Canada's economy. Headlines suggesting Canadian tourism will be facing a drop that Chinese visitors are put off won't help. It's a point emphasized by Beijing officially today. The Canadian government wrongfully detained Meng at the behest of the U.S., the foreign ministry spokesman said bluntly. And many Chinese people are starting to question the safety of traveling to Canada. As for the safety of Canadians traveling to China, Ottawa has still not changed its travel advisory. The last time it was updated was on November 23rd. That was 8 days before Meng Wanzhou was arrested. The advisory does tell Canadians to exercise a high degree of caution, but that is related to, quote, isolated acts of violence, including bombings and protests, not the threat of arrest. Still, what's happened in China the past few days does raise questions about business travel. Senior business correspondent Peter Armstrong now on the anxiety.
The towers here at Canada's financial hub are full of people and companies doing business with China. Not surprisingly, none of them want to go on the record to talk about this situation because tensions are very high, and none of them want to even inadvertently make things worse. Because let's face it, there are billions of dollars at risk. Canada's exports to China totaled more than $18 billion in the first 9 months of 2018. China, in turn, shipped nearly $55 billion worth of goods to Canada. Until last week, the trade war was between the US and China. But from the moment news broke that a Canadian had been arrested in China, there have been very real questions about what all this means for Canadians who are working there and for any Canadians who are planning to travel to China for business. Noted U.S. economist Jeffrey Sachs said the U.S. request for the arrest of Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou puts American business people traveling abroad at much greater risk of such actions by other countries. I did speak with one Canadian who's actually traveling to Beijing today. Ken Curtis is the former head of Goldman Sachs Asia. He's worked in China for decades now. He says there's no reason to be concerned. He told me, mind your P's and Q's, obey the laws, and respect your host, and there's no reason not to continue traveling there. Obviously, though, not everyone is quite so bullish on Canada-China relations at the moment. Peter Armstrong, CBC News, Toronto.
We will have much more on this story. It's Thursday, and that means it's at issue. The gang tackles the response from Ottawa and asks the question, answers the question rather, should the federal government reconsider trade talks with China? That's still ahead. Now to a story, though, on a subject that's got many Canadians concerned. This man is a known criminal from the U.S., an admitted gang member with a long rap sheet who went to an irregular border crossing last year and just walked into Canada. Tonight, some shocking details about Abdulhai Farah's immigration case. CBC News has learned that after he was taken into custody, he was freed by Canadian officials, not once, but twice, before the system finally caught up with him. Charles Rusnell has our exclusive report.
Abdulhai Hashi Farah has been awaiting deportation in an Edmonton jail for 6 months. His story exposes serious cracks in the immigration screening system.
When we see a lack of resourcing, a lack of staffing, errors can be made.
Criminologist Kelly Sundberg says Canada has a small but growing problem with sometimes lax immigration screening and enforcement.
We're going to see problems like this where individuals fall through the crack and do pose a danger to the public.
More than a decade ago, while a permanent resident of the U.S., Farah joined the Somali Outlaws gang and soon racked up a long list of criminal convictions.
29 people indicted on sex trafficking charges.
To avoid deportation to Somalia, he became an informant against his own gang in a sex trafficking case that involved girls as young as 12. Farah eventually refused to testify, was imprisoned, and then repeatedly breached probation after he got out. Former Homeland Security agent Tony Langland was Farah's handler for 2 years.
He was in the life. He had not stopped it at all.
In October last year, facing arrest, he crossed illegally into Canada at Emerson, Manitoba, was caught, and went before the Immigration and Refugee Board. Farah's seemingly candid admission of his criminal record and gang ties impressed an IRB member. In my estimation, you are probably one of the most honest detainees that I have come across, he said, and released Farah in Winnipeg.
If they would have found out a portion of what had happened down here, I can't conceive that they would have let him out.
Just 6 days later, Farah breached his release conditions and was rearrested. That same day, the CBSA accessed Farah's cell phone. They found recent photos and videos of Farah playing with a loaded handgun, doing cocaine, and flashing wads of cash. But that evidence was not immediately provided to the IRB. The CBSA won't say why. Without it, the board again released Farah in March and allowed him to move to Calgary, but he again took off. Police arrested Farah here early on the morning of June 11th. Drunk and high on street drugs, he'd been in a fight. Nearby, police found a dumped getaway car that had been used in a string of armed convenience store robberies. A CBSA officer picked him out of security camera footage from a robbery. Despite that, police won't say why Farah is no longer a suspect. The IRB now expects Farah won't be deported to Somalia until February at the earliest. But he's made it clear he intends to return to Canada as soon as he can. Charles Rusnell, CBC News, Edmonton.
The CBC News investigation into Farah's case touched a nerve in Ottawa today, and in the House of Commons, the opposition pounced.
Will the Prime Minister review and fix his failed screening processes?
The Honourable Minister of Border Security.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, everyone that comes into this country is subject to vigorous background screening. The information in this case was not available to the IRB when they made the decision, but the man in question has been in custody since June. He is currently being held pending in detention. That detention and removal will take place early in the new year.
Bill Blair taking that question because the immigration minister was not in the Commons today to respond.
An armored truck guard is in an Edmonton hospital tonight. When he and a colleague were delivering cash to a local bank early this morning, they were victims of something they never saw coming, an explosion that was part of a robbery. The other guard was also taken to hospital, but was released later. As Rafi Boudjikanian shows us, this isn't the first time the city's dealt with something like this.
A forensics unit, emergency workers, an armored car behind police tape. The city of Edmonton has seen this kind of thing before.
It was one of the loudest bangs I could ever imagine hearing in my backyard. And I thought it was a full-size garbage dumpster being dropped by a truck.
Turns out it was more than that. Edmonton police say 2 security guards working for Garda World were dropping off cash at a Scotiabank branch at around 2 a.m.
Some sort of explosion occurred, rendering them in shock. A suspect then subsequently entered the bank, and I believe it's alleged at gunpoint, then took and made off with an undisclosed amount of cash.
In 2012, an armored car heist in Edmonton made national headlines. It went far beyond stolen cash. One of the guards, Travis Baumgartner, shot and killed 3 of his colleagues. He was caught fleeing to the United States. 2 years ago, armored car guards exchanged gunfire with robbery suspects, killing 1. This all has the union representing Garda World employees questioning what to do to keep its members safe and thinking it's time to figure out some new measures.
I understand somebody robbing an armored car with a gun, or I think everybody that can understand that, but to actually detonate an explosive device, it just shows you that the individual that has decided to do this has no concern whatsoever about the health or the lives that are at stake here.
Garda World too says it's concerned about safety and is working with authorities. Complicating the investigation, police say the suspect was wearing a disguise and they have no description. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Edmonton.
Here are some of the other stories we're watching tonight. A bizarre day for authorities both in Canada and the United States because dozens of bomb threats were sent to businesses demanding payments in Bitcoin.
The Calgary Police Service Crime Unit and detectives with the General Investigation Unit have determined multiple bomb threats received via email across the city today are a phishing scam.
That conclusion by the Calgary Police Service is much the same across the board. The threats came in the form of an email targeting schools, businesses, even subway stations. The impact? Lockdowns in dozens of cities in Canada. Those include Ottawa, Montreal, Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto, and Winnipeg. And in Thunder Bay, police are now investigating the death of 17-year-old Braden Jacob as a homicide. This comes just a day after an Ontario police watchdog report found systemic racism in the city's police service. Jacob was from Webekwe First Nation and was in Thunder Bay to access counseling services which are unavailable in his community. He'd been reported missing before his body was found on Sunday in a park.
Still ahead on the National, it's been months since Maxime Bernier broke off from the Federal Conservatives to start his own party, painting himself as a change maker and an outsider. So who's buying in? Catherine Cullen will find out.
Plus, ever been annoyed by ugly Christmas decorations? We're willing to bet you're not as frustrated as this guy. We have the story of one man's endless quest to change wreaths put up by the New York Port Authority.
How strange. And a story you won't want to miss. A Toronto surgeon is being investigated after our colleagues at Marketplace noticed a camera in his clinic.
I don't really feel comfortable being unclothed in front of the camera.
Is there a room that she could go to? There's cameras all around. It's just the doctors, we have to record everything for legal purposes.
Premier of Saskatchewan will meet the Prime Minister in Ottawa tomorrow to talk about the new American duties on potash imports. Saskatchewan is Canada's largest producer of potash, and those American duties could cost the province a lot of jobs. Premier Grant Devine asked for tomorrow's meeting with the Prime Minister after lobbying against the duties in the United States this week. Jane Chalmers reports.
The Black Hills and ranches of South Dakota resemble a page of Americana, filled with romance of the Old West. But it's an image tarnished by the realities of a new West, a state with one of the highest farm bankruptcy rates in the country.
We need customers.
Saskatchewan Premier Grant Devine used this backdrop for his continuing protest against American duties on Saskatchewan potash. The pink fertilizer has become the center of a new trade dispute.
If there ever were a pair of countries in the world that could figure it out and find some solution, it would be Canada and the United States.
The Premier is using every lever he can.
How are you?
Yesterday, he met American politicians, including U.S. presidential candidate Robert Dole. They made few promises.
We deal with the real world, political realities, and try to work things out. I'm going to be doing some additional looking into this problem as a result of this meeting.
The dispute is snowballing. First, 2 New Mexico mines accuse Saskatchewan companies of dumping potash in the U.S. at unfair prices. Then the American government imposed temporary duties of up to 85% while it investigated the charges. Now the Saskatchewan government has limited production to drive up prices.
Who's winning? Americans aren't, and I'm not.
In Saskatchewan, 1,000 jobs may soon be lost. In the U.S., where 200 farmers go bankrupt every day, fertilizer prices will jump by $300 million a year.
We're going to fight this on this side of the border, too. It's just more stuff that's unfair that the government's putting back on the farmers.
Some farm organizations have already written to President Reagan.
We're in favor of free trade, and this is not only an anti-free trade, but it also is detrimental to farmers.
It's probably safe to say most people expect total privacy when they walk into the treatment room at their doctor's office. But a new hidden camera investigation from our colleagues at Marketplace reveals a Toronto plastic surgeon may be filming his patients without telling them up front. The discovery has prompted investigations by both the College of Physicians and Surgeons and the Ontario Privacy Commissioner. Magda Gabriselassie has more on what the team found.
Hey guys, welcome to my clinic.
He's a plastic surgeon who makes lots of videos like these. He is not camera shy. But what about his patients? A Marketplace investigation reveals Toronto's Dr. Martin Hugenberg may be filming them without their consent.
I have a question. Is there a camera out there?
During an investigation into breast implant surgery, our producer went in for a consultation at his clinic with hidden cameras. She noticed a security camera in the waiting room. Then in the examining room, after being told to undress, she noticed a camera on the ceiling there too.
Yes, that's for the doctor's record.
Oh, okay. I don't really feel comfortable being like unclothed in front of the camera.
Is there a room that she could go to? There's cameras all around. It's just the doctor's, like, we have to record everything for like legal purposes.
She didn't see any notices posted, nothing to alert the patients that there's a camera.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's wrong. Clearly, the images are being captured on a non-consensual basis.
That's not sitting well with Ontario's Privacy Commissioner, Brian Beamish. He says he's never come across this before, and he's launching an investigation.
The idea of having a surveillance camera in a room where treatment is being given or an examination room, where that surveillance camera is there for non-clinical purposes, I would say is unjustified and would likely be a breach of our privacy law.
He's also worried about how the footage is stored and who has access to it. The nurse steps in to explain.
Sorry about the camera thing. I know it's all over. It's to protect you too. It's just a security camera, basically. You know, for the safety of you and him. Like if someone ever said something happened that didn't, or stuff like that.
Oh, has that happened before?
No, never.
Some clinics film interactions with patients for training new doctors, but unlike at Dr. Hugenberg's, they have consent forms and options to go into a room without a camera. Ontario's College of Physicians and Surgeons is also investigating. Dr. Hugenberg is already facing a disciplinary hearing by the college. He's accused of inappropriately touching a patient, also posting before and after photos online without her consent. Dr. Eugenberg denies the allegations and says he will defend himself against them. On questions from Marketplace about the cameras, he said they are for security purposes, that notice is provided to patients, and protections are in place to preserve patient confidentiality. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Toronto.
Still ahead on the national, no food, no water, nearly no hope. Trapped in an abandoned mine in West Virginia for days, the incredible moment 3 people were freed is our moment. Stick around for that one.
Plus, the House rises for Christmas break, and it's the last sitting in Centre Block, but not the last sitting for this gang. Andrew, Chantal, and Althea Raj take on Ottawa's reaction to the China crisis. That's next.
Most people had never heard of NXIVM until this happened.
Allison Mack. She has been charged with sex trafficking.
The FBI arrested the group's leader, as well as Allison Mack. And over several months, a number of charges were laid, including sex trafficking, forced labor, and racketeering conspiracy. And all hell broke loose.
Mack was with the alleged cult leader when he was arrested in Mexico.
NXIVM has been called a terrifying cult, a sex cult, a pyramid scheme, and even a group bent on world domination. But what is NXIVM? Here's the story of the group's rise and fall. NXIVM started in 1998 in Albany, New York, and it claims to be a self-improvement group, and it helps people with their issues and gain success. The ultimate goal is to achieve an enlightened state, something that's called fully integrated. So far, of course, the group's leader is the only one who's achieved that state. It's also a multi-level marketing company. People pay money to take courses, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars, and you can make money by getting other people to sign up. The group has attracted rich and famous people, including heiresses Sarah and Claire Bronfman, Smallville actresses Allison Mack and Kristen Kruk, and Hawaii Five-O actress Grace Park, though Kruk and Park have since left. But some former members say the group is actually centered on the appetites and powers of the group's leader, Keith Raniere, who the NXIVM faithful call Vanguard. If you want to understand NXIVM, you have to try and understand Keith Raniere.
Our main belief is to have people experience more joy in their lives.
This is him talking about NXIVM.
And from that, all sorts of interesting effects appear to happen.
So according to Raniere, he's one of the smartest people in the world. He claims to have an IQ of 240. He says he has 147 patents. He has degrees in math, biology, and physics. He has a minor in psychology and philosophy, and he's an expert in computer science. He's written 2 books, one with a foreword from the Dalai Lama. NXIVM isn't the first multi-level marketing scheme that Raniere started. In 1990, he started something called Consumers Byline, which is essentially a discount shopping club. It was shut down, though Raniere did not admit any fault. A few years later, he started NXIVM.
I'm very devilish, and I think I'm probably the worst coach in the world because I'm just a demon.
NXIVM claims to be a self-help group, but according to some people that left, that's not the whole story. Some people say that after they left, NXIVM went after them in the courts for speaking out. And some of the most serious allegations in the FBI indictments have to do with a secret group linked to NXIVM called DOS. Some of the women who joined DOS say they believed it was a secret group for women's empowerment. DOS is an acronym for the Latin phrase Dominus Obsequious Sororium, which loosely translates to master over the slave women. In DOS, you were called a slave and you served under your master. And if you recruited others, you became their master. In order to join, women had to give over collateral to prove they were committed. Some women gave nude photos or taped confessions of damaging secrets. If they quit, some people feared their collateral would be released. And in what many people find the strangest part, in the initiation ceremony, women got branded. One woman says that she only found out at the ceremony that the design would be burned into her skin. She left NXIVM after she realized that the design appeared to include the initials of KR for Keith Raniere and AM for Allison Mack. The FBI says that some of the women in DOS were being instructed to have sex with Raniere. Since the story broke, NXIVM has suspended all activities, and Raniere and Mack have pleaded not guilty. But some former members are worried about what will happen next, and if the company will still come after them. Check out the complete podcast, Escaping NXIVM, at cbc.ca/.
Tonight, we're keeping a close eye on France, where the hunt for a suspect in Tuesday's deadly attack is now over. This was the scene in Strasbourg shortly after the 29-year-old was shot and killed by police. Officials say he was walking around this neighborhood close to the market when he was spotted by police. 3 officers moved in to arrest him. A brief gun battle broke out, and the suspect was, quote, neutralized. Also tonight, a week of peace talks has resulted in a ceasefire agreement concerning the key port city of Hodeidah in Yemen. Government forces have been fighting Iranian-backed Houthi rebels for months. UN mediators hope this deal will reopen humanitarian corridors in a country where 22 million people need aid. The next round of talks is planned for January.
When I initially asked for a bill, I didn't expect it to take this long.
That's Omar Khadr. He will have to wait at least another week while an Alberta judge reviews his request to change his bail conditions. The former Guantanamo Bay detainee wants a Canadian passport to make a pilgrimage to Mecca. He also wants permission to call his sister without supervision. Khadr has been out on bail in Canada since 2015 while he appeals war crimes convictions in a U.S. military commission.
I hope that out of this, I think maybe that St. Mike's has become a catalyst for change.
And parents at Toronto St. Michael's College School are speaking out as police investigate 2 more incidents. The school has already been rocked by allegations of assault and sexual assault by students. Details on the 2 new cases have not been released, though police say the sex crimes unit has investigated 8 incidents regarding the school so far.
Regardless of what goes on in other countries, Canada is and will always remain a country of the rule of law.
Ms. Meng was arrested pursuant to Canada's extradition treaty with the United States. There was no political involvement.
Well, the trading relationship will continue. You know, states, you cannot judge a trade relationship on a daily basis.
This situation demonstrates that Justin Trudeau's naive approach to relations with China isn't working.
As you've seen all week, Canada is caught in the middle between 2 superpowers, and while Ottawa says that it isn't political, China seems to feel differently. So is Canada being used by China and the U.S., and at what cost? That issue is here to answer those questions and more, and they're all with me in Toronto. Chantal Hébert, Andrew Coyne, and Althea Raj, all here at the table with me. Good to see you all. Okay, this has escalated quickly. It's been surprising, I think, some of the developments, or maybe not, given the pattern of behavior of China. Andrew, I'm going to start with you. Let's start with that question. Is Canada being used by either China and the United States?
We're being abused by China right now. They've basically kidnapped 2 of our citizens in retaliation for this. No, I dispute that we're caught between 2 superpowers.
Okay.
America is a democracy, China is not. We are on the side of the democracies. This is not Donald Trump that made the request for extradition. It's U.S. law enforcement. This is an investigation that goes back some time, where they've had to present evidence in courts of law, where we have a long-running extradition treaty with them. It seems to me right and proper that we would respond as we did, both as a matter of law enforcement and as a matter of national security, given the abundant concerns about Huawei, not just in our own intelligence community, but in most of the Western intelligence community. So it seems to me we had no choice but to do as we did. It has greatly enraged the Chinese, no kidding. So the issue to me now is, do we knuckle under to Chinese bullying or do we not? And I greatly hope we do not.
I'm not sure that we have the option of knuckling over the pressure from China, because we have so far been sticking to the rule of law, and we have a treaty and we have applied it. What happens when a Canadian judge gets to decide whether that court says yes to the extradition request from the U.S. And reads the comments of President Trump that seems to suggest there's a political motive behind this rather than a serious legal cause for requesting that, is an open question. Yeah. It's not a given that that Canadian court will say yes to the U.S. Right. But before we get to that, and no politician in Ottawa is going to be calling a judge to say, please say no, or please say yes. So before we get to that, we are going to have to bear with whatever China does. And there is very little that we can do except follow the process.
But how do you deal with, on the one hand, China, where rule of law is not something that they subscribe to, and on the other hand, the United States, where, as you say, okay, we should be on the same side, but where they are potentially undercutting what we're saying with the president's tweets? I mean, how do you, that's a very difficult road.
Well, and I think you saw not just the Prime Minister's office express frustration today at the president's comments yesterday, but also senior officials in the government on the justice side say, no, this is a trade issue. It's not political. So if the Americans themselves and people from Mr. Trump's own team are trying to separate these issues, I think it just speaks to the president's kind of lone wolf stand on many issues that, you know, he kind of spewed out this thing and now they're trying to put the toothpaste back in the tube in many ways. What I found really shocking, actually, was the editorial from the Chinese ambassador in the Globe and Mail, in which he does not actually seem to recognize or realize that the rule of law that the government is talking about is not just a talking point. It is actually a fundamental pillar of our society. And perhaps that's the way things are done in China, but they're not the way things are done here. And I don't know if it's like a PR move or it's a real lack of understanding about political interference in this country.
I think it's a PR move. I think what they've calculated is we're the weakest link here. Their beef is really with the United States. They're the ones who want to arrest and presumably charge this woman.
And the beef is not necessarily about that. It's also about trade and tariffs, is it not?
Well, that's what China would like to portray this as being. The terms of the indictment of her have to do with breaking the sanctions on Iran. And there's considerable evidence that Huawei has been involved in this. I'm not trying to convict anybody, but there was, it's non-trivial evidence to that regard. So that's really what this issue is about. That's what U.S. law enforcement will tell you this is about. Trump himself may have polluted the waters by saying things that are simply he doesn't really have the power to do unless he's proposing to retrospectively pardon her or something. But there's legitimate law enforcement reasons to have made this extradition request. I agree entirely with Chantal that there may be reasons why our courts, one of the tests that has to be made is, would this be a crime in Canada as well as the United States? And because we're dealing with sanctions laws, that's not necessarily cut and dry. But the first step is absolutely to respond to the request.
But make no mistake, those presidential comments are now part of the record, and they will contaminate the U.S. case. And if that U.S. case for extradition does fail in the Canadian court, people will point back to those comments as part of the reasons why the judge decided that the U.S. wasn't operating in good faith. But there's no other remedy. This is not something you can resolve diplomatically. You're calling China and saying it's all going to be okay.
No, but you can resolve the part about our citizens being detained. And in the immediate...
You can? How?
Well,
Excuse me for asking the question.
No, but diplomatically, you could attempt it. You know what I mean? You could at least do something. You could pick up the phone and make a phone call. Yes.
As far as I know.
But in that instance, how do you deal with a country that is using your citizens as pawns?
Well, one thing it seems to me is this ought to absolutely put on ice, at least for now, any talk of a free trade agreement. And China wants that free trade agreement at least as much as elements in our country do. So we've got to make clear that there's going to be costs for this kind of just lawless behavior. I mean, we are, I absolutely agree, we are on the side of the rule of law here. The basically disappearance of two of our citizens in China has no legal process behind it whatsoever.
And make no mistake, other allies that China wants to have trade relationships with are taking note of what is happening.
Exactly.
No one takes lightly that citizens of a country in retaliation suddenly or arbitrarily disappeared.
Well, what's really interesting, I think, is to your point, is that they have picked on us as the weakest link. And, there's no outcry, or seemingly rather silent outcry from our partners internationally about what has happened. They have not kidnapped Americans, they've kidnapped Canadians. And in many ways, I think this government is finding itself alone on the international stage. Like, it makes me think of their position on Saudi Arabia, for example. And once again, they think they're taking a principled position, and they look around and no one's lining up next to them.
Yes, but they're looking around at what the French president that is dealing with two crises.
I'm not saying that they're not.
British PM who barely made it through a confidence vote. I mean, and a U.S. administration that doesn't function normally.
But what they're also looking at, and China is looking at, is a government in Canada that in the first couple of years of its government was very clearly tilting towards China in ways that were troubling. Greenlighting the Norsat sale, for example, when it hadn't really had the proper security vetting. It dragging its heels on Huawei, on whether it should be given access to the 5G networks. Most of our fellow partners in the so-called Five Eyes intelligence network have said, no, they should not be part of this. We've been the last to really weigh in on this.
The UK still hasn't.
The UK is still looking at it, but I think this ought to really make clear that we've got to firm up our stand on this, that the sort of geopolitical strategy that liberals want to play of China's the next hegemon and we need to cozy up to them is way premature.
Right, but this is the eternal debate with China, is it not? How close do you get before things start going badly, as they are now?
When you get closer to China, and the government has tons of polls to show it, there was already unease in public opinion, and no government is going to get far out on this branch, knowing that public opinion will increasingly be saying, wait a minute, we don't want this. You need, if not vocal support, at least benign indifference on the part of public opinion to be able to move this forward, and I think that's gone.
That will, and likely would never happen, I don't think, right? I mean, people
not anymore.
No.
Not for a while.
What is interesting is that they seem to not know exactly how to respond. On the one hand, you have like Liberal MPs today saying like, I don't want to travel to China. We should not travel to China. The trade mission in BC was canceled. That was a provincial decision. But the travel advisory has not changed. And the department is usually rather risk adverse about sending political signals that are too bold. Yet you look and they're like, well, there's 2 of our citizens that are gone. Clearly, you should be taking more action than you are taking. And it's very interesting that they don't actually seem to know what direction they want to swim in.
Yeah, or is it publicly we're not seeing that? Because I mean, I think the thing that struck me this week was if I thought Chrystia Freeland was diplomatic and careful with her language before when it came to Donald Trump, I have never seen her more deliberate in her speaking than I did this week around this.
Yeah, and then she had to put some distance between our process and Trump's statement. Yeah. I mean, she had to make clear this is, as Chantal said, this is harming the U.S. case, and it's certainly harming our case to be
and maybe harming our citizens.
Yeah. Okay, we'll leave it there. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Before we go, be sure to subscribe to the At Issue podcast for extra content. This week, for instance, we're talking about Rachel Notley's latest pitch for Alberta's oil patch. Look for it on iTunes, any major podcast app, our website, cbcnews.ca/thenational.
And next on The National, the former Conservative who is building his own party from scratch.
This is like the first political event I've ever found myself at.
It's not going to be politics and spin doctoring and smear campaigning.
I think with Maxime, it's a new era that will begin.
So Maxime Bernier wants to be Prime Minister. Who's flocking to his movement? That's after the break. But first, in case you missed it, there are always a few decoration fails this time of year. Like this town's apparent obsession with hanging, giant underwear, or Walmart and its shotgun shell holiday lights, or this mall's questionable choice of tree. But for New Yorker Corey Windle-Specht, this is the biggest fail every year. The wreaths on the Holland Tunnel, specifically the one over the letter N. It drives him nuts. He's a little passionate about this.
Overlooking this disaster, as you can see, the tree is still over the letter N and not over the letter A yet, where it rightfully belongs. This Christmas tree that's over the letter N, that should be moved over one spot. This is not right. It's not right.
Well, it seems they have finally heard him. The Port Authority is now conducting a public poll about where the wreath should go if they choose to move it. We asked Windle-Specht today if he feels vindicated.
They're pretty receptive to what's going on, and they recognize the movement.
And if they don't move it?
Hey, what am I going to do? If they don't, they don't. I mean, I'm not going to go vigilante and move it myself, so.
So you say, Corey. So you say.
Number 9, Maurice Richard, breaks in savagely, breaks his stick, and knocks the puck into the net with his hand.
A teammate once said that watching him was like looking at a rocket. The nickname stuck and the reputation grew. A dangerous, ruthless competitor with a glare an opponent once described as frightening.
I was just medium hockey, not medium, but a good hockey player. Not an all-star because I was never a good skater. I was never a good stick handler. Just had to have more desire. And I wanted to win every game. I didn't want to lose. I used to hate losing.
Maurice Richard was born in working-class Montreal in 1921. He trained to be a machinist, but his ambition was to play for the Canadiens. In 1942, the dream came true, and his coach predicted he would become the biggest star in hockey.
Richard encore. Le 325e but de la carrière de Richard.
Richard did things that had never been done before. He was the first to score 50 goals in 50 games. He once was named all 3 stars of a game in which he scored 5 goals. He once played a game exhausted after moving his family to a new house. He scored 8 points anyway, and years later remembered.
That night before the game, I didn't sleep at all. We were fixing the bed. We slept on the floor, and we didn't sleep very much.
Continue son chemin. Lac intercepte. Lance et goal.
The stuff of a growing legend. During his career, the Montreal Canadiens won 8 Stanley Cups. He captured the imagination of an entire province. It was his relationship with the public that made Richard truly unique. He played at a time when rural parochial Quebec was modernizing, and it had a hero adversaries feared. It was sometimes a volatile mix. 1955. In a blind rage, Richard went after an opponent who had struck him. He roughed up an official who got in the way. The league suspended Richard for the rest of the season and the playoffs. It led to what became known as the Richard Riot. Montreal's next game, somebody fired tear gas. Fans went after the league president, Clarence Campbell. Out in the streets, thousands went on a rampage. Some historians have called this event the beginning of Quebec's modern nationalist movement. Years later, Richard remained bitter about his suspension, but said it was just hockey.
I hate talking about politics. I hate talking about suspension and all that, but I was never a guy that wanted to be in politics.
As his career was winding down, Richard made hockey history again. He became the first to score 500 goals, and the famous puck became a famous gift.
We sent it to the Queen, and I think it's over in England somewhere. I hope so, anyway.
By 1960, Richard had scored more goals than anyone in NHL history. He had played for 18 years, but he was too injured to continue.
As of now, I am a retired hockey player.
He worked a while for the Canadiens, dabbled in business, played and refereed some old-timers exhibition games, but he was too large a presence ever to fade away. In 1998, the nation gave him its highest honor for lifetime achievement, making him a Companion of the Order of Canada. And the league. Last year, it invited Richard to present for the first time a trophy that carries his name. It goes to the player who scores the most goals in a season. And the fans. Most Canadians have never even seen Richard play hockey. Most of his records have been broken.
See.
Here it is, the People's Party of Canada, PPC.
It was 3 months ago that Maxime Bernier made a bold gamble. He broke away from the federal Conservatives and he forged his own party, the People's Party of Canada. He has been building that party, hoping to field candidates in all 338 ridings for the next federal election. Bernier has cast himself as an outsider, populist, pro-business, against so-called political correctness, and for restrictions on immigration. It's a formula that has shaken the political establishment elsewhere. But how is Bernier's gamble paying off here so far? Catherine Cullen takes a look.
No question, Maxime Bernier is a draw. In Vancouver, in Calgary,
People's Party.
Toronto,
Monsieur Maxime Bernier.
and in Gatineau, Quebec. On this night, more than 200 people have come out to see what he's selling. But who's buying? There are the curious.
I don't follow politics too much, but This is like the first political event I've ever found myself at, definitely, and it'll be cool, I think.
I'm here to see what he has to say, learn more about him.
I'm Catherine.
Catherine, I'm George. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, George.
And the already convinced.
He's not scared not to say something controversial, like he's willing to talk about the immigration problem that we're having, the mass immigration, and that's definitely fresh air, you know?
We don't believe in illegal immigrants, and we must stop that.
Bernier is no soaring orator.
So we believe in more individual freedom.
But no one here seems to mind.
We must end corporate welfare, and we will.
More than 30,000 people have signed up for his fledgling party, and Bernier is setting hopes high.
I like what I'm doing, and I know that we are building something greater than a political party. It's a kind of a movement.
But when you're building a movement from scratch, everything is on the table.
Okay, who's going to ask the first one?
I want to ask you, what would you do to deal with cultural Marxism that's creeping up all around us?
Bernier fields questions about China, veterans, and immigration.
There are 30,000 right now illegal immigrants. Will you be able to deport these people back to their original countries?
Thank you. You can go ahead.
So just what is it that sold these people on Bernier's brand of politics?
I think with Maxime, it's a new era that will begin.
But he's got to say, you know, this party is your party. We're going to be honest with you. It's not going to be politics and spin doctoring and smear campaigning and...
But some of the admiration gets uncomfortable.
Okay, let's have a photo.
George Massad has a question about ISIS. His friend is filming the conversation for their Mad Max Bernier fan page. Asking if Bernier would deport convicted terrorists, Bernier responds he'd try to keep them from ever returning to Canada. But Bernier's team doesn't like that we're filming the man in the Make America Great Again hat and hustles him off stage.
I'm sorry, no, I'm sorry. We have a lot of people after. I'm sorry, go right ahead, thank you.
Just wait until they're done, that's all I want to say. Oh, sorry.
But Massad's still a Bernier believer.
As he was saying, 49% of Canadians want less immigration. And yeah, I just hope that he would talk more about that. But I get why he wouldn't, you know?
Why?
Because a lot of the mainstream media would take that, right, and they would attack him based on that and make him look like he's xenophobic. And there's nothing xenophobic about wanting to protect your country, you know?
Massad is so upset about immigration issues.
You don't even have to open the door, like the smell will actually go through walls.
He's wandered the halls of a Toronto hotel, claiming the asylum seekers living there were fake refugees trashing the premises. And that leaves Bernier's party grappling with how to deal with supporters who want to go well beyond his political stance, especially on controversial issues like immigration.
I present to you the guy you really came to hear, Maxime Bernier. Like Bill just told you.
Bernier says people with hateful or extreme views aren't welcome in his party. But as the movement grows, the question is, how do you filter some people out? In the end, the biggest challenge for the People's Party may just be the people themselves. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, Gatineau, Quebec.
Next on the National, emotional family reunions for 3 people rescued from an abandoned mine. A community's prayers answered. Well, that's our moment.
Never give up hope. No. I watch a few people trying to give up hope, but I never.
For some insight on what Meghan Markle should expect when it comes to etiquette, now that she's joining the royal family, I'm joined by the etiquette expert himself, William Hanson. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Thomas.
We're going to have some tea here.
Marvellous. Well, let's start with putting our napkins on our lap. Now, these napkins are slightly larger, so we would fold them in half, with the crease facing us on the lap like so. We're not going to tuck it into our collar.
Let's talk about the wedding and the royals and what Meghan should expect. What should she keep in mind when she's having tea with, say, someone like the Queen?
when she is dining with the Queen, whether it's tea or any other meal, she should not start before the Queen. And when the Queen finishes, when her cutlery goes together, that's the end of that, and Meghan finishes, regardless of whether there is food left on her plate or not.
When Her Majesty's done, everyone's done.
Exactly, and the Queen is a very quick eater.
Okay, good to know.
Now, show me how you would stir.
Well,
not with that spoon, with your teaspoon
yes.
there.
Kind of go for the stir around formal tea stir, but I feel like maybe that's wrong.
It is incorrect.
Of course.
Yes, we actually stir going back and forth, 6-12, 6-12, north-south. And then when you're finished, it's a gentle flick above, and then setting it back at the back of the saucer in line with the handle.
In terms of, you talk about tradition, but how have Harry and Meghan changed tradition, broken with tradition so far?
We've seen a lot more tactileness. They seem to be touching each other more, holding hands, touching the arms. Traditionalists like me don't like that, but I can see the merit behind it. I would hope that they would sort of restrain that and not hug everybody that they meet, because they're not a character at Disneyland. They are supposed to be members of the royal family. Now let's talk about how we hold our teacup. Now we pinch. What I want you to do is your thumb and your index finger are going to pinch, and then your middle finger, like so, follows the shape of the handle underneath. And all your other fingers are tucked under. And then when we drink, we look into the cup, not over it. Keeping a straight back, and then returning the cup to the saucer.
If this were your client, someone moving from the United States to Britain, not only to live here, but to join the royal family, what is going to be the biggest adjustment for her, do you think?
I think the biggest adjustment is going to be the sort of the intricacies and the things that have the slightly historical connection and the historical logic to it. Just watch to see what everyone else is doing. Don't just dive in and start eating or start interacting with people. And if in doubt, ask in advance. And that would be my number one piece of advice for Meghan, is don't be too proud to ask for advice. It's not a sign of weakness.
Certainly, I would want to be sitting next to you so I could keep an eye on you and know what to do.
There was relief, and yes, there were a few tears from this crowd tonight after 3 people were rescued from an abandoned mine in West Virginia. 4 got lost over the weekend, but 1 made it out by himself on Monday. The rest were trapped inside. Until rescuers found them last night. They emerged from the mine covered in mud, but otherwise relatively unharmed, and they were taken by ambulance to meet their worried loved ones. That reunion, that's our moment of the day.
Did you ever give up hope? A few people trying to give up hope, but I never, because God's amazing. And now I get to tell my grandson I love him.
What was it like in there?
What's that? Tell me what it was like in there, Code.
It was terrible.
Feet warm.
We'll be down there,
Hey, you're done?
listen to me.
Let me get them in. I'll be at the hospital.
I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
They're not minors.
No,
right?
they're not.
So
No, definitely not.
This is a second group of people caught trespassing at that mine in a few weeks, and authorities are saying they think they were there to steal copper. And one of those gentlemen said, I'll take the penalty. I know I can't get away with this scot-free.
So they went in, they didn't have, obviously, food or water, so they drank mine water. There was a stream there. They hoped it wouldn't be contaminated. But this is a problem in West Virginia, so they actually have laws in place to try and make sure that people don't go and steal copper, because it is worth a lot of money. So they go in there at their own risk, and that's what happens. There you go. Can I stay?
Please.
It's so cozy in here with you. All right.
We like it. We like it.
That's the National for Thursday, December 13th. I'll go back to Ottawa.
Oh, no.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.